What the hell is happening to this once great country of ours? This bastion of democracy, this mother of parliaments, this country that bought the freedom of its slaves, that has welcomed people of all nationalities to its shores as part of our diverse culture, one of the most diverse cultures in the world. Even Donald Trump has said that Britain is losing its culture because of immigration. So why do people, including Trump, think that immigration is destroying our culture? Well, first of all, we have to ask ourselves if it's true. I think the answer to that is a definite yes. We have many towns and cities and suburbs and districts where the British culture has totally disappeared, along with the British people. And our Anglophone friends throughout the world shouldn't feel too complacent. It's happening in the USA. I can mention Ilhan Omar and Dearborn, Michigan. It's happening in New Zealand. It's already appears to have happened in Canada. Australia has its problems. It's happening throughout the West, and the governments and the left are ignoring it or refusing to acknowledge it as a problem. So what's wrong with diversity? Well, diversity is not self-sustaining. You see, when you have one aggressive and violent culture that wants to dominate and refuses to integrate, it drives out the other cultures, and you end up with areas where the new culture is 100% of the population, and that, my friends, is not diverse. Diversity depends on people's following one basic set of rules, whilst also following their own customs such as food, dress, music, etc. But where the underlying objective of one culture is the subjugation of all the others, you get violence and terrorism. The aggressive culture then expands outwards by outbreeding the host culture, and it takes power through the democratic means and turns that democracy against its host country. And it does it with the clever manipulation through propaganda of the many useful idiots who feel that virtue signalling is more important than checking facts and extrapolating the effects of their actions. Now, I want to give you a quote from a famous Englishman. I can't guarantee that I have it verbatim, but it's near enough. I'll tell you who it is later. He said, "Muslims are people. Hating people is bad. You shouldn't do it. Islam is an ideology. All ideologies should be open to criticism." With that in mind, immigration can be a great thing. The right amount will enrich your own culture, give us greater variety in food, music, art, and philosophy. Many immigrants are highly charitable. Hindus have opened their temples at Christmas to feed the homeless. They don't see a foreign religion to be condemned and destroyed or subjugated. They see poor people who need help, and they give their resources to help them. And the Sikhs? Did you know that 64% of the British Sikhs engage in some volunteering work? 64%. It's estimated that Sikhs in Britain each donate around £380 per year on average. This is despite the fact that Sikhs have the second highest poverty rate in the UK, with 27% of British Sikhs living in poverty. This is in comparison to 18% of the population as a whole. I admire both these communities. They're largely the same race as most British Muslims, which proves that any criticism of Muslims is not racist, but ideological. So what about Muslims? Well, the Muslim Council of Britain's website has this slogan: "The Muslim Council of Britain is a grassroots community organisation. Help us continue valuable work for the Muslim community in Britain." I'll say that last bit again. Valuable work for the Muslim community in Britain. Sounds a bit like self-help. During the COVID crisis, for example, in Pakistan, Muslim charities were giving aid to other Muslims in need, but refusing to give any aid to Christians, Hindus, and other non-Muslims. That's not to say that all Muslims refuse to help any non-Muslims, but the evidence is strong to suggest that non-Muslims are far less likely to get succor from a Muslim. It says in the Quran 3:56, "As to those who would reject faith, non-Muslims in other words, I will punish them with terrible agony in this world and in the hereafter, nor will they have anyone to help," which rather indicates that no help should be given by a Muslim to a non-believer. That said, many Muslims are peaceful and do not want to believe what the Quran really says. Many have never read it in a language they understand. It's written in Arabic and they're supposed to read it in Arabic. It's also the case with Christians that many of them haven't read the Bible, of course, but these Muslims that we're talking about now, they prefer a narrower interpretation that's closer to the Judeo-Christian ethic. However, one wonders whose side they would be on if Muslims reached 35% of the population, as happened, for example, in the Lebanon, when they decided that the time was right to take over and they caused a civil war. My own feeling is that immigration is like salt on your dinner. A little salt brings out the flavour and enhances the meal. But just because a little salt improves the dinner, that does not mean that you want to put a kilo more on your dinner, because that will destroy it. So, what bad effects has immigration had on the UK culture? Well, many of the practices that they brought in are seen to be barbaric or just plain evil to Western eyes. 1. Female genital mutilation. FGM is illegal in the UK, and yet over 100,000 women and young girls are living with it in this country. The first prosecutions for FGM didn't take place until 2015 against a doctor for performing FGM and another man for aiding and abetting. Both were found not guilty. The first successful conviction was secured in February 2019. It should not have taken so bloody long. I'm sorry, but as far as I'm concerned, if an underage girl is found to have been mutilated, the parent should automatically be found guilty of breaking the FGM law and also of child abuse. The doctor who carried out the operation should be struck off, and if the parents refuse to name him, they should be given harsher sentences, and their daughter and any other children that they have should be put into care. If the family are immigrants, frankly, they should be deported, as should any foreign criminal. 2. Honour killing. Like it or not, this exists even in the UK. Now, Quran 18:65-81. This passage is a parable that lays the theological groundwork for honour killings, in which a family member is murdered because they brought shame on the family, either through apostasy or perceived moral indiscretion. Now, the story, which is not found in any Jewish or Christian source, tells of Moses encountering a man with special knowledge who murdered a youth for no apparent reason. However, the man later explains that it was feared that the boy would grieve his parents by disobedience and ingratitude. He was killed so that Allah could provide him a better son. Note that this parable, along with verse 58:22, is a major reason that honour killing is sanctioned by Sharia. Reliant of the Traveller, Umdat al-Salik, says that punishment for murder is not applicable when a parent or grandparent kills their offspring. Let me just say that again. Punishment for murder is not applicable when a parent or a grandparent kills their offspring. What kind of culture allows the parents and grandparents to kill their own children and grandchildren? It beggars belief. And then there's misogyny. This is a fundamental part of Sharia. Under Sharia law, a woman is considered half of a man. In a UK Sharia court, for example, a progressive Muslim man's will was overturned because he left equal shares of his estate to his sons and daughters. The Sharia court ruled that the sons should receive twice what the daughters got because they are only worth half a man. It's good to note that the man who died was progressive enough within Islam to give equal shares to his daughters, but evidently his sons were not. When a woman attests to a Sharia court in many Islamic countries, she should bring at least 4 men to support her testimony. So in most cases of rape, a woman can't prove that she was raped unless she's got 4 male witnesses. And frankly, if you had 4 male witnesses, surely they would have stopped the rape. Anyway, the court can then sentence her to death for adultery. That is what happened to Suraya Menuchari, who was stoned to death in Iran on false charges of adultery. Under Sharia, girls can marry at the age of 6, just like the Prophet Muhammad from the Quran did when he married Aisha. In Muslim countries like the Yemen and Iran, girls are considered adult and being sold into forced marriages with grown men by their families. In Sweden, anyone already married to an underage child is allowed to continue living with them as husband and wife. It should be noted here that in the case of Nujud Ali in her book Age 10 and Divorced, it was fellow Muslims, a female lawyer and a male judge, who extricated her from her life of torture. So there is hope yet. But it frankly beggars belief that any woman would support this terrible and homicidal misogyny. It also beggars belief that anyone from the gay community could condone the Islamification of their country. The sentence for being gay in most Islamic countries is death, sanctioned in the Quran. Douglas Murray said it best. If gays for Palestine were in Palestine, they would have to move to Israel. Then there's anti-Semitism. The Quran and the Hadith have many verses explicitly aimed at annihilating Jews. For example, Quran 9:29. Fight those who disbelieve not in Allah nor the last day, nor hold that forbidden which hath been forbidden by Allah and his messenger, nor acknowledge the religion of truth, even if they are of the people of the book, until they pay the jizya with willing submission and feel themselves subdued. People of the book refers to Christians and Jews, by the way. And so you fight them unless they give in to you and pay you a tax. And in Sahih Bukhari 52:177, Allah's apostle said, "The hour will not be established until you fight with the Jews, and the stone behind which a Jew will be hiding will say, 'O Muslim, there is a Jew hiding behind me, so kill him.'" And in Tabari 797, the morning after the murder of Ashraf, the Prophet declared, "Kill any Jew who falls under your power." Ashraf was a poet who was killed by Muhammad's men because he insulted Islam. One of my Muslim acquaintances has told me that they have no problem with Jews, which is heartening. But whilst the Muslim here is behaving in a civilized manner, the ideology is still bad. And then we have racism, the thing that they're always accusing white people of. One of the victims of the notorious Pakistani grooming gang in Rotherham, in the UK, is now suffering at the hands of far-left groups for speaking out about her attackers. This woman, speaking to Yorkshire Live under a pseudonym, was raped more than 100 times. I think she's got every right to speak out about her attackers. She said that we need to understand racially and religiously aggravated crime if we are going to prevent it and protect people from it, and if we're going to prosecute correctly for it. Prevention, protection, and prosecution, all of them are being hindered because we are neglecting to properly address the religious and racist aspects of grooming gang crimes. It's telling them that it's okay to hate white people. And for having the guts to state the blindingly obvious, she has been viciously attacked by the far left. She's had a lot of abuse from far left extremists on Twitter and radical feminist academics. She said, "There is one group who go online and they try to resist anyone they consider to be a Nazi, racist, fascist, or white supremacist. They don't care about anti-white racism because they appear to believe that it doesn't exist." And there, ladies and gentlemen, is one of our greatest problems. There are far-left bigots who refuse to see that whites can be, and often are, the victims of racial attacks. For example, all those white girls whom Naz Shah said should keep their mouths shut for the sake of diversity. Who will protect us, the white people, from this slow burn genocide committed by so-called minorities, who are now a majority in our own capital city, aided and abetted by far-left activists, misguided gays and feminists, and our own police force and our government? If you don't care that your daughters and granddaughters will be genitally mutilated, if you don't care that your daughters and granddaughters will be executed because they were the victims of rape, if you don't care that your gay friends will be hanged or thrown from tall buildings, then do nothing. If you do care, then be aware, spread the word, and rebel against the far-left activists who are hell-bent on destroying our culture. For the sake of diversity, don't let one aggressive culture overwhelm the rest. For the sake of fairness, give Muslims all the same rights that they give us in their Islamic countries. The quote at the beginning was from Tommy Robinson. Hi, I'm Stephen, and I hope this video gave you some food for thought. If you'd like to see more of the same, please subscribe. See ya.